Welcome to Mommy Mia Media, a podcast by moms for moms.
Hey guys, welcome back. Happy Monday. For any of you who have not yet checked out our website, please be sure to take a look. We added new content. Just actually added a blog with Prime Day happening this week. We did curate a list of our top 5 items. It's actually specifically something I curated myself. It's 5 items I felt were very beneficial in the first few days coming home after the hospital. So check out the blog. There's also some links to some of the products that I personally have used, or at least some of the products that I recommend checking out. In addition to that, if you haven't done so already, make sure if you're watching us on YouTube to hit that like and follow button, and also make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast. We're definitely, excited to be growing out this community. We see a lot of people who have started to listen in, which is great. We enjoy having you here, but we also want to grow out that community. You can participate in answering some of the questions that we include in the episodes. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and we also enjoy making TikToks. We're, kind of new to that, but we've had a fun time with it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I feel like I'm an old little dinosaur. And technology is new to me, but yes, it's been fun.
I mean, it's a learning curve for me. So me and Lindsay both take turns in kind of tackling social media. So whenever you guys, comment or ask a question, we're always here to try to answer or assist.
Keep those interactions coming.
Yeah, absolutely. If you didn't tune in last week, we did have our first guest, which was really exciting, actually. I really enjoyed having Allie. So if you haven't already, please be sure to watch our first podcast where we had a guest on the show. We will definitely be bringing more individuals on in the near future. If you are a mom and you have a unique story, we'd love to hear from you. So feel free to reach out to Mommy Mia Media, whether it's through the website or social media, and we'd love to get in touch. But aside from that, to kind of dive into this week's episode, I wanted to actually talk about, if you tuned in last week, you're aware I went to the Taylor Swift concert over the weekend. So yeah. I actually will probably be posting a blog about it. It was a lot of fun. So if there's any Swiftie moms out there, let me know. Put a heart in the comments. But
if you're not, don't feel bad.
It's okay. We can all be friends here. But I personally myself am a huge Swiftie fan, have listened to her since high school. So this was her Eras tour. Me and my friend Jenn from high school actually got tickets, fortunately, as like a second round thing. So it's been highly anticipated. If anybody, even if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, I'm sure you've heard about how much of an issue it was to get tickets to go see her. But
I heard it was pretty crazy.
It was my first time away from the baby too. So I was kind of dreading that because although Casey is perfectly capable of, handling things and holding down the fort for me, I was just so nervous because I'm not gonna lie, I missed her a lot. I went back to work in 8 hours. That's one thing, but I mean, we're talking a 2-hour ride down there. Her concert typically goes for 5 hours typically. Because with her opening acts, between her opening acts and then her hitting the stage, it's about 5-6 hours is what people were saying. But it was an amazing experience.
And obviously baby was okay.
Baby was okay. Casey said that they just hung out. She did great. So that was awesome. But I'm not gonna lie, going down, we've talked about mom guilt. I definitely had that going down. I almost was like, man, I shouldn't have bought the tickets. I'm gonna miss her, but it was so needed, and it was so nostalgic to listen to some of them.
Dress up and everything.
We did. So we actually dressed up. So it was her Eras tour. So there's versions of Taylor Swift, for those of you who aren't fans, of each album that it's representative of.
I had no idea
yes.
that was what this was.
Yeah, so Jenn was her Lovers era, if you will.
And that's one of her...
her CDs. So, or albums, rather. And then I was just eras in general. I identify more probably with her Reputation tour. I just love that CD. I love that album. But as a whole, I mean, she has grown as a musician. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So...
Well, and I'm not... I say I'm not a Swiftie, but it's not that I don't like her music. It's just I've not gone full force into it. And I mean, if I'm listening to radio, it's typically like old school hip hop or random like songs, or I'm listening to a podcast.
I listen to an array of different things. If you listen to my Apple Music on shuffle, you'd probably be like, what the heck? Like, it can go from like 90s rock or country to...
Right. Anything 90s is typically on my playlist.
I have 80s.
Alternative rock, hip-hop, punk.
I have a little bit of everything. I truly
Pop.
do. You might find Disney music show tunes.
Yes.
You never know what you may find, but...
whatever you're in the mood for.
No, absolutely. And it's kind of funny, too, because, I went to the concert. We dressed up. And Natalie, of course, is like, oh my gosh, Mom, you're so embarrassing sometimes. I'm kind of like, excuse me, like, ma'am, I am not that embarrassing, first and foremost. I could be so much more embarrassing.
Oh, yeah.
Our kids think that.
They've got it easy.
Oh, they truly do. And she's like, oh, we can do show baby pictures of me. And I'm like, no. I could do so much worse.
Oh.
Like, I could just act a certain type of way and embarrass you, child, but I'm not going to, because sometimes she forgets, like, I'm your mom first and your friend second. Because, I mean, we have that type of relationship where we can talk about anything. We kind of goof around a majority of the time. That's just how we've always been. But we can be serious with one another.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, sometimes I don't know, like, she just likes to push her boundaries, and I'm like, line has been crossed, take a step back or two.
Right.
But
I don't know. See, I never thought that, like, in my mind, I never, like, embarrassed Gabe. It was always the other way around if something embarrassing was happening. But then I told Gabe the other day, I was like, oh, look, like, there's a posting I could work at your school. And I thought it was a great idea. I was all for it. I'm like, I could take you to school, keep an eye on what's going on, like, but also, like, I could work during school hours and then be off on summers. But he was not having it. The second that the sentence left my mouth, he said, nope. He said, absolutely not, Mom. Promise me you will not work at my school. And I'm like, why? You don't love me? Are you embarrassed of me? He's like, that would be the most embarrassing thing in the world. I'm like, I was kind of offended. I didn't realize I embarrassed my 12-year-old that badly.
I think they're just getting to that age. But I'm like, do you know how many times Natalie has embarrassed me? When I was thinking about it, I'm like, you embarrassed me before you were even out of the womb, child, okay? First and foremost, like, compared to the pregnancy with Amelia, Natalie was a pretty smooth pregnancy. But the one caveat was I had low iron. So I was put on an iron supplement. I didn't realize that I had gotten constipated on that supplement.
Oh my gosh.
So I go to something that went wrong with my car. My brother graciously offered to help fix it. So he picks me up, takes me over to AutoZone to pick up this car part. And as he's getting it, it hits me so hard that I thought I was in labor. I called a friend of mine who'd recently had a baby. I was like, what does labor feel like? Because I think I'm about to give birth. And she's like, why do you feel it that way? And I'm like, I just feel like I legitimately felt like I had to bear down in that moment. And I was trying not to. And it was like, I could not control it. I let one rip, and it was a shart. I'm sorry to be, so straightforward,
no.
but it was awful. I was so embarrassed. And I remember my brother getting back.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks.
Right. And I remember my brother getting back in the car, and all he did is he, took that deep breath, and he's trying to smell, and he goes, "What is that smell?" And I was like, "It's me." And I started crying. And it was one of those times, you go home just so ashamed of what just happened. And you're like, there's no salvaging the clothes that you're wearing. You're like, those just need to be burned. We're sacrificing them to the clothing gods.
In your brother's poor truck.
I know. I was luckily I didn't
He's still not getting rid of that smell for a few days.
I offered to get him an air freshener. I think that's a fair trade-off.
Oh, man. Kids will do that, though. And, that's one of those stories that, you'll be dead and in your grave, and somebody will, bring it up, and you'll roll over in your grave.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
I'll be please don't.
100%. That's how it is for me I have one story. Now, my kids, they don't embarrass me often, but when they do, it's, burned into my brain, and I will
Seared.
Yes, and I'll still, it'll give me anxiety, laying in bed at night every so often. There was one time he got me good. I was pregnant with Lawson. I had my belly. It was one of those days I didn't feel like getting ready. I threw on probably a pair of Ian's sweatpants and a long sweatshirt. And we went to get some barbecue. Well, as we were in line, literally, now mind you, this is lunchtime. There's a line of people behind me. There is people beside me, and then the people taking my order at the cash register. And as I'm ordering, I hear, "Mommy's butt!" And my 3-year-old son decides to pull my sweatpants down.
No. In the middle of the restaurant?
In the middle of the restaurant, mooning the entire lunch crowd behind me.
Oh my gosh.
I'm literally in the middle, and all I did was I just remember out of the corner of my eye I could see that they have a security camera in the corner, and Ian just starts cracking up. I just casually reached down, pulled my pants up, and continued to order. And then afterwards I turned to Ian and I was like, "Give me the keys. I am not sitting in this restaurant anymore. You will bring my food to me in the truck." And I literally ran out the door crying, and no joke, for months I would YouTube de-pantsing in that restaurant, trying to see if it was actually caught on camera, because that closing crew that night was roll it again, play it again.
Oh my gosh. How embarrassing.
My face turned purple, and Ian just sitting there giggling like a little girl.
We're thanks for your help. I'm so glad that you were there to, I don't know, shield my behind. Literally have my back.
And Gabe, he's just smiling through his passy at that point, ha.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, that one keeps me up at night.
At least you don't have a bedtime story that you could literally tell to people at night. So I actually have a story that I literally can physically hold in my hands of my child's embarrassment. Her teacher, this was a couple years ago, she was probably only in maybe 2nd, 3rd grade tops, and I guess they had been working on how to write stories, right? So having a beginning, a middle, and end, doing illustrations. And they had sent home a form and said, "Hey, your kid's been working hard on how to develop a story. They've written several stories, and we're going to compile a book of stories that you can purchase as a keepsake." And
so, does it have everybody else's stories in it too?
I didn't know at the time. I thought it was our kids have been working on several stories, so they're compiling all that child's individual stories into one. And I was like, that's cool. I would love to see however many stories Nat has written throughout the year. That's really cool. And it was kind of expensive, but I
think that's where my mind would go to, though.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay this cost. It was $25 for a hard copy of this book. but that's what they offered. And I'm like, that's so cute. I'll have a keepsake of my kids' little stories for her to read to her sibling or something. You know, I don't know. So I placed the order. I get the book. And first and foremost, I was wrong. It was actually a compilation of the entire class's stories. So I was like, okay, you know, that's one thing. But then I'm flipping through, and of course, I'm anxious to get to Nat's story. I get to her story, and I'm immediately like, bad decisions, regrets, like, I don't even know. So it starts off with the day I gave my dog away as the title, and I immediately knew I was in trouble, okay?
Oh, no.
So as I start reading this, my daughter has this picture, and it's us giving our dog away, and it starts with, one day I woke up and my mom said we had to get rid of our dog. I'm immediately villainized, and I'm like, we had to get rid of our dog, unfortunately.
There's context behind this.
There is. Look, I love my pets. This is before we had owned a home. His apartment did not allow dogs. So I had to make a tough decision. I actually rehomed her with a coworker who loved dogs. She actually volunteered at a dog shelter all the time. Her oldest dog just passed away, and their dog was by itself. She had never been by herself. And my dog had been over there several times because we used to work collaboratively at her house. So it just made sense.
It was a good fit.
It was a great fit, actually. And I used to, like, she used to send me pictures just about her, like, kind of getting integrated in the home. And it was, like, I mean, obviously, like, bittersweet. But, of course, I'm immediately villainized in this story, people. Like, it was not that I just, like, decided one day that we were going to get rid of our dog. But then the story proceeds to say that the reason that we got rid of our dog was not because of the reason I just told you. It's actually because our dog would chew holes in my underwear. And
in your underwear?
In my underwear. And people, let me tell you, I'm immediately horrified. I'm just
this
like...
This book is in every home of the second grade class.
Yes. And I'm like, PTA meetings are about to get real interesting up around here. Like, they're going to be like, oh, you're the bitch with holy underwear.
Who gave her dog away?
Who gave her dog away? Awful pet owner. Like...
Oh my gosh. I mean, I have a book too, but it's not as bad, and it's not hard copy, but it's actually a really cute little like book that Lawson put together for Mother's Day. This was actually last year. It's second grade. It's always second grade. He put in it was like, you know, what's your mom's favorite color? Green, because she has green eye. Like little sweet blurbs.
Right.
What's her favorite food? What is she good at cooking? And then it gets to what is her favorite drink. Tell me why on this line my son filled in whiskey. Her favorite drink, my mom's favorite drink is whiskey. So then I'm starting to laugh and I'm like, oh crap, like his teachers, like hopefully she would see this, and I'm like, wait a minute, whiskey's spelled correctly. Lawson, who helped you spell whiskey? My teacher.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was pretty dumbfounded. I was like, I don't even drink that much.
What is more upsetting and more embarrassing about that story is he got it wrong. It's supposed to be tequila. Like,
I just looked at him though, like, why would you say my favorite drink is whiskey? And you know what it was? What cracked me up? This is the worst part about it. Like, if it would have been one thing if, you know, I drink some whiskey on the weekends, which sometimes I do, and it is my drink of choice. But he put in it that it was whiskey, but then when I asked him about it, he's like, well, what's in that purple bottle? Do you mean my iced tea? Because I drink tea every day in my purple bottle.
Why are you do you have a flask somewhere with some whiskey in it?
He goes, oh, I thought it was whiskey.
Oh my gosh.
So I mean,
the teacher probably is like, man,
this
we
was
should
like,
hang out.
Yeah. The funny thing was, it was like our first year being established in the community. So I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, what is the teacher thinking?
Oh my god.
Well, luckily, like, I got to volunteer and, like, go on, like, field trips and stuff with school, and so I got to know the teacher a little, so she just kind of giggled about it, but she never, like, I don't think she
was like,
poorly.
we have to give her a breathalyzer before she takes our kids on any kind of field trip.
I think she looked at Lawson and was like, that's why she drinks.
She's like, I get it. I deal with 20 of them.
Your son makes me drink as well.
That's hilarious.
I swear my kids don't embarrass me that much. I don't know if it's maybe because I am a boy mom, like, and I have like a husband who's always ragging on me, but it's the husband that he embarrasses me the most.
Really? I mean, I could totally see that. Ian embarrasses me. So.
He is ridiculous. Literally the other day we were like walking through the store and he grabs my hand and starts skipping.
Does he know how to skip?
He probably thinks he does, but he doesn't.
Have you seen those videos of the older guys who think that they can skip and they try and fail?
No.
Oh my gosh. Hold up.
I probably need to. It's
So
probably Ian and his friends.
No. You on the iPad. For those of you who haven't checked this out, I definitely recommend you do it. Who knew that this was going to be a reaction video?
Definitely not my husband. Maybe one day. What is he about to do?
He's trying to skip. Watch. You forgot how to skip.
Ian does a lot better job.
Here we go.
But it looks
Watch.
pretty similar.
He looks like he's Irish step dancing. But I definitely recommend for those of you who have not checked out, there's videos out there of people asking their fathers to basically skip. And it looks like there's some that forgot how to do so. And it's just quite comical to watch them kind of skip.
He grabs my hand and takes me all the way through the store, so he does way better than the video.
That's kind of goofy, you know? I mean, not too embarrassing.
More like galloping.
I was about to say, there's much worse I'm sure Ian could have done. Natalie is just one of those people, like, that embarrasses me because she's so witty.
Yeah.
With her comebacks. And she's always been like that.
See, my kids are too. I think that's why I don't embarrass, though. Because it's a daily, like... I don't think of that as, like, embarrassing anymore. Because I deal with it 100% of the time.
That's true. I mean, like, and Natalie... I mean, growing up, she's always been very blunt. You know what I mean? Yeah. I remember her... There was this lady, I felt so bad. Like, I'm in my almost mid-30s. And this lady at the... You know, I was... in my 20s at the time, and this lady probably who's my age now is walking through the grocery store, and she's like, "Hi, old lady," and I was like, "I am so sorry." Of course, she was only like 2, so she was very sweet. I was like, my feelings would have been a little hurt, but that's just like one time that she embarrassed me. There was another where, you know, she is just she's very quick with her comebacks. Yeah. And I think she was probably, I want to say she was maybe 6, maybe 7 at most. And we were going back and forth, and she said something that's like, "You shut your face, just joking." And her comeback was, "You shut your legs." And I had no comeback whatsoever. No. And I'm like, she has no idea what she just told her mother. But I am so embarrassed right now. Oh, no. Like, I'm not embarrassed. I don't even know if it was more embarrassment, but I was more proud. And luckily, we weren't around anybody. But it's one of those moments you're like, as a parent, you're like, I don't know if I'm pissed or proud about this moment.
Okay, I have one more. But it wasn't necessarily embarrassment. It was my kid almost got us in a fight.
Oh, no.
Okay, so Ian drives a truck. We have lots of friends with trucks. Like, the one going joke, though, is the bigger your truck, the smaller the package.
I've heard this.
So
I don't believe that is accurate, though.
No,
just put that out there.
However, we pull up to the gas station. This is when Lawson is in a car seat, and he's just chilling in the back seat. Ian gets out to pump gas, rolls down all 4 windows, and a big lifted truck pulls in next to us. And the second he steps out, Lawson points out the window and goes, "Look, he has a small penis."
Oh no.
And I just remember locking eyes with Ian like, what do we do? Like, we're gonna get in a fight. It's not even our fault. Sorry. Like, we don't know that, sir. Keep going. Yeah.
Oh,
And he had no idea, but he said it so loud. And I'll never forget it. I'm like, oh no. That was when we learned you have to really watch what you say around kids.
that, I get it. Well, and it's funny talking about the lower nether regions. I had to laugh. So earlier today, I took my niece had stayed the night, and we had went to get coffee earlier today. And the girls were in the back having a conversation about how old they thought people were. She was like, "Yeah, I didn't realize how old your dad was," talking to my niece. And she's like, "Yeah, he's 42. She is like, "I am concerned about him, though, because he has gray hairs." And I was like, there's no need to be concerned about that. I was like, I got gray hairs when I was pregnant with Nat at 22. I said, I know people who had gray hairs when I was in high school.
Right.
And I said, not only that, I said, but I know people who were balding in high school. You know what I mean? Even from a man's perspective. And she was like, is that what happened to Uncle Scott? I said, yeah. Uncle Scott started losing his hair, so he, decided to shave it. Right. So that's why he rocks that hairstyle.
Right.
She's like, that makes sense. She's like, and she's at a curious age. She's at that age where she's trying to learn about her own body as well as what's going on with boys' bodies.
Oh, no.
So she has questions. She goes, so Mom, serious question. I was like, yeah. She's like, when a man balds on their head, do they bald down below too? And I didn't expect that. Oh no! I didn't know how to answer that.
My sweet little girl.
I said, I don't think that's how that works, sweetheart. But
oh no!
But
she's curious.
A legitimate question. I mean,
oh,
I could not,
girl. Oh
I will not lie to you. I laughed for about 5 minutes. I'm immature. I'm sorry, but it just threw me off.
I would have been like, I have to pull over. Hold on. Oh my goodness. I can't even. I'm so glad you had the girls.
Oh my gosh. I just didn't even know how to respond. I'm like,
I'm glad.
How do you explain said things? Like, I don't. First and foremost, I don't know.
You should have said, I'm not sure. Ask your Uncle Scott.
I thought about that, but I was like, how awkward would that be? For his niece to be like, so question.
Yes, but has there ever been a time that you need to get back at him? Because that's one of the ways.
No, because he's like...
Actually, you already did that when you got in his truck when you were pregnant with her.
Yeah.
You've done enough to that poor man.
I have, and my brother is like one of those people who is just, he's the family favorite, you know what I mean? He's the baby of the family.
Will help anyone.
Yes, so I mean... Oh my goodness, I could not imagine. I think his jaw would drop if Natalie were to ask him such a question. But he's getting
your mother.
He's getting his fair share of girls. So he actually is about to get married. His fiance they have 5 kids together total, and 4 of them are girls. One of which is his biologically, but. I mean, they all range from 13 to...
Listen, if he wasn't balding, he would be.
Exactly. But, I mean, shout out to Scotty. I love you. Don't hate me about this. And to Sam as well, because, I mean, it takes
oh my goodness,
heck of a woman to raise 5 kids. I mean, let me tell you, I didn't think I could do 2. I'm comfortable with the age difference and everything, but... I I don't know how people have, but then again, I was like, I don't know how people have two.
Right.
But then when they start outnumbering you, I'm like, that's when I'm like, 3
Yeah.
I know some people, my mom was 1 of 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
But do you think, though, because, like, I know, like, when my kids have friends over, like, it doesn't matter if they have friends over. Like, yeah, they're a little more loud than they normally are. But honestly, like, they entertain each other. So do you think that maybe in some aspects it might be a little bit like, oh, they can entertain each other and they're not so much looking for you for that entertainment?
Coming from somebody who had siblings that were close in age, I think that there's the upsides and the downsides to having multiple kids. I think that yes, they can entertain each other if they're close in in age,
right?
Especially like for me, I had kind of the best of both worlds. So my older sister, there's a 4-year difference.
Yeah.
So there's a 4-year difference between me and her, and we clashed a lot of the time.
I get it.
2 girls in the house, both in our teenage years, especially. It was, hey, can I? Yeah, it's stuff. Everything was, let's fight about makeup because she would borrow my stuff, I would borrow her stuff. You're stretching my stuff out, don't wear my stuff, I wanted to wear that. Why didn't you ask? Right. That is the things that you deal with. But then like with me and Scott having the opposite gender, 2 years difference, it was kind of like we could play and stuff and hang out, and because he was a boy he didn't get on my nerves as much, but you still like bicker and fight, and I mean that's typical sibling stuff. But I mean, looking at even Nat, where she was an only child, I feel like, the difference is when you have a friend over, they can go home. You know what I mean? Like, so, for instance, even when Nat and her cousin get together, there's only I think there's literally a 13-month difference between Nat and my niece. And that... they're really close. They're almost like sisters, but they get to that threshold. You know what I mean? So she'll come over. Right. She'll come over and they can be together for 2, 3, 4 days, but they reach that point. Right. And then it's like, all right, I'm ready to come home and have my time away. And then they're right back at it like a few days later.
That's exactly, my cousin and I were that way, and my niece and I, but my cousin and I especially, we were very close in age growing up. And so we grew up like sisters, but then it would be to the point where like our moms would literally like, listen, you guys need to separate for a night. Like you're starting to get to the point where all you're doing is bickering and fighting. And then we would cry for each other though when like we weren't with each other. So our poor moms, they had to go through this like vicious cycle of like I was either at their house or my cousin was at our house. And that's how it was. We would like beg to be together to the point where I knew their address before I knew my own address. So,
I mean, hey.
But we fought like crazy. But then I had all boyfriends. Like, not boyfriends, but like friends that were boys. The only girls were the ones that were forced to be my friends because they were my family.
That's an interesting dynamic. I mean...
So, because my siblings are all older than I am.
That's
my brother's 17 and a half years older, and my sister's 8 years older. So, I didn't get the siblings to fight with, so I just did it with my cousins and my niece.
That's fair.
Terrorized my niece. So.
And now your boys are terrorizing you,
Yeah, and now we're friends and our boys terrorize each other.
There you go. That's the way of the world.
Yes, but it's a cycle.
Well, I think that's all that I have for this week for you guys. Again, if you haven't already checked out the website, please be sure to do so. That website's mommymiamedia.com. Tune in next Monday. Don't know what we'll talk about as always, but we will definitely...
If you have a special request, let us know.
Yeah, we're always open to new suggestions, content.
Shout outs.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like, follow, share, subscribe. I'm sure if you have a funny story, please share. I'm sure that this will be a multi-part topic. I mean, our kids will never fail to embarrass us. I will find that book for you guys one of these days, and present it to you so you know that I'm not bluffing. But in addition to that, we would love to hear your embarrassing stories. And who knows, we might even make a whole episode of embarrassing stories of just other people's kids so we don't feel bad about our own. But we look forward to speaking to you guys next week.
See ya.
See ya.